Goddess Ereshkigal, the first ruler of the underworld. As ruler of the underworld, Ereshkigal looked after the souls of the dead and kept the balance. As a goddess, even the most powerful deities could not stand against her. From Hades in Greek mythology to the Christian hell, almost all religions throughout time have believed in an afterlife where the souls of the departed live in another world that is inaccessible to the living. In many religions, the afterlife was referred to as the underworld and was located beneath the physical plane. Unsurprisingly, this type of myth is as old as human civilization, and some of the first references to a subterranean afterlife come from the Mesopotamians. Unlike most ancient cultures, however, the underworld of Mesopotamian myth was ruled by a woman, Ereshkigal. Along with being an important part of Mesopotamian cosmology, this goddess was one of the most respected and feared deities in the pantheon. Ereshkigal, Queen of the Underworld. The ancient Mesopotamians believed that individuals had a soul which resided in the physical body. After the person died, the soul left the physical body and went to the afterlife. In contrast to other religions, the Mesopotamians did not believe that people were judged based on their actions in life and sent to different worlds in the afterlife based on that judgment. Rather, Mesopotamian texts illustrate that all people, regardless of their economic class, social roles, or moral standing, went to the underworld after they died. Referred to by several names, such as Kur and Ereshkigal, the underworld of Mesopotamian mythology was a large, underground metropolis with residential buildings and even palaces. In addition to being populated by the souls of departed mortals, Kur was also home to supernatural beings such as Gala demons. Ruling over it all from her palace, was the goddess Ereshkigal. The name, Ereshkigal, roughly translates to Queen of the Great Below or Lady of the Great Place. It is unclear who her parents were in the Mesopotamian pantheon, as some texts refer to this goddess as the daughter of An, the supreme sky god in Mesopotamian religion. In contrast, other records list the Queen of the Underworld as the daughter of Inanna, the god of the moon, and Nergal, the goddess of the reeds. However, Mesopotamian texts do specify that this goddess was the older sister of Ishtar, the goddess of love and war, and Shamash, the god of the sun and justice. Ereshkigal had 4 different husbands, including the Gugalanna, the bull of heaven, and Nergal, the god of death. Death in Mesopotamia and the role of Ereshkigal. Although Mesopotamians believed that the souls of their departed loved ones lived on in the underworld, they did not consider the afterlife to be a utopian existence. Mesopotamian records described Kur, or Ereshkigal, as a dreary place devoid of sunlight, plants, animals, or even water. As a result, Mesopotamians believed that the only food or water the dead received was what was given to them by the living. This was done through rituals in which offerings of food and water would be placed on the graves of the dead by their living relatives. The Mesopotamians also believed that specific burial rites had to be conducted right after the person's death in order for that individual to have a peaceful existence in the underworld. As the Queen of Kur, Ereshkigal's role as a deity was primarily focused on death and rituals connected to the ending of someone's life. The main role of this goddess was to look after the souls of the dead and to act as a barrier between life and death, ensuring that the living and the dead did not interact. However, Ereshkigal was also tasked with guaranteeing that the dead were given proper burial rites and annual rituals. This aspect of her role was so important that she would forego her responsibility to keep the living and the dead separate if death rituals were not being conducted properly. Most often, Ereshkigal would allow the dead to visit the living as ghosts in order to reprimand them for not conducting death rituals properly or to remind them that the dead depended on the living for a peaceful existence in the afterlife. 2 goddesses in the underworld. While Ereshkigal played an important role in Mesopotamian religion, archaeologists have not found as many records pertaining to the Queen of Kher as they have about other Mesopotamian deities. However, we can gain some insight into the character of this goddess, as well as her significance in Mesopotamian culture, through surviving myths about her interactions with other Mesopotamian gods. One tale that scholars have found particularly informative is Inanna's descent into the underworld. Inanna's descent begins with Ishtar, who is also referred to as Inanna, descending into Ereshkigal to attend the funeral of Ereshkigal's first husband, Gugalanna. Before she goes, Ishtar clothes herself in garments of great power. At the gates of the underworld, Ishtar demands to be let in. The gatekeeper, Neti, hesitates because he fears that Ishtar has actually come to conquer Ereshkigal. When Ereshkigal is informed of her sister's arrival, she instructs Neti to have Ishtar remove a piece of her outfit at each of the underworld's 7 gates to ensure that the goddess will enter the land of the dead stripped of her power. While Ishtar acquiesces to this, she breaks the rules of the underworld after entering by sitting on her sister's throne and is killed for her transgression. When Ishtar's servants learn of her death, they ask the Queen of Kher to let them view her corpse and they are able to resurrect the goddess. However, the goddess of love is still trapped in the underworld because, as someone who died, she is forbidden from returning to the world of the living. Ishtar learns that she can escape the underworld if she provides a replacement who will be trapped in her stead. The goddess of love and war ultimately chooses her consort, Dumuzi the shepherd god, as her replacement, and he is dragged to the underworld by demons while Ishtar goes free. The Queen of Kher and the God of Death. Another Mesopotamian tale that provides crucial information on the Queen of Kher is the story of her marriage to Nergal, the god of death and pestilence. When the story begins, the Mesopotamian gods are having a feast. Ereshkigal, being the queen of the underworld, could not leave the realm of the dead. Unable to attend the feast, Ereshkigal sends her advisor, Namtar, to go as her representative. When Namtar arrives, most of the gods show him deference as Ereshkigal's representative. However, Nergal refuses to show Namtar the same respect. When the Queen of Ereshkigal learns of this, she demands that Nergal answers for his actions by coming to her in the underworld. According to the tale, Ereshkigal originally intended to kill Nergal for disrespecting her representative.